Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and nature lovers around the world, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, where we are joined straight away by a female warthog and her two sub-adult piglets watching us very intently. In fact, when I pulled up, somewhat contrary to our usual warthog behavior around here, one of them actually came running towards us to try and have a look at us. I'm giving them plenty of space and distance because they tend to be skittish animals. We don't often really get to sit and observe their behavior properly. Tails whipping around. And I know I've told this story before, but my younger brother is absolutely terrified of warthogs due to childhood trauma, where he was thrown into the air by a warthog that was staying at the resort that we were staying at. Those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie. I have Wium, the wildebeest, on camera with me this afternoon. James will be out a little bit later with Bryan on the back. Of course, we always have Hayden in the tent and Andrew flying the drone around, and then Brent out walking, our trackers out tracking. It really is an exciting afternoon planned. Our warthogs are still with us, so I'm going to stick with them for a while. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a live safari. So it means that everything you're seeing is happening right here on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. And we're also interactive. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, say, for example, about these wonderful porcine creatures that we're seeing at the moment, you can send those through to #SafariLIVE on Twitter. Or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And we'd love to hear from you, especially, well, not especially, but definitely from new viewers. We'd love to know if you're watching, and if you want to know any facts about them. If you don't know anything about them, don't feel shy, let us know. Always keen to hear from you and where you're from in the world. And in case you're hearing the constant rattle, that is the water pump that provides water to both the Djuma Lodge as well as the rest of the reserve. So that's the pump busy going, pulling water out of the borehole, interrupting what is otherwise a very peaceful afternoon. It is 28 degrees centigrade, theoretically, which is 82 degrees Fahrenheit, sitting in the sun. I think I have to disagree with that. I think it's a little bit hotter. Luckily, we've got a bit of a breeze to cool us down. We have got things to find and animals to show you, so let's hit the road and see what we can find. Now, I know that you guys were treated to, or I believe you were treated to, an incredible sighting this morning. The Ximhungwe pride made a very rare appearance to Djuma, and we will definitely be following up on them a little bit later and having a look and watching them. They're looking incredibly hungry, definitely in need of some food, and 3 sub-adult lions with a fascinating story to tell. We're going to have to wait a little while before we head back across to them. For now, I'm going to go across to Arathusa because I haven't been there in ages, and I want to see what else I can find. Get some updates from that side of the world. I say that side of the world, it's about 4 kilometers away. It's about 2 miles. So it's not exactly a stretch. And just a reminder, of course, although I think most of our regular viewers will know, that we are seriously amping up for Big Cat Week, which we're all incredibly excited about. Been lots and lots of work and rehearsing from every every single part or every single member of our team pulling together to give you a spectacular wildlife experience for Big Cat Week. Interestingly, Wium's just told me the most fascinating story that I feel like I should share. Wium found a camera when he was out filming for Peter Pretorius this morning, and he had a look at the card that was on it to try and figure out if we could work out where it came from. Obviously, it's been announced on the radio. We checked with all of the other guides to make sure that a guest hadn't lost it. And he had a look at the pictures. The last picture was from September 2012. And he also says that there's a picture of a lion that he thinks might be Junior at a very, very young age. Incredible stuff. Excuse me, gentlemen. Hello. Interesting how now that we've got to lambing birthing season, stop there, let them relax a little bit. Now that we've got to lambing birthing season, we're actually seeing the return of that harem structure that we see during the rutting season, and it's because there's a huge spike in estrus being produced by the females, and it makes the males a little bit confused. Oh, what have they spotted? Oh. Now, one of the other fascinating things that we will be bringing to you during Big Cat Week will be a bingo game, and we're going to start practicing now. So this would be a bingo item for those of you playing along. This is just a practice run, so we're mentioning all the items that you can see. In fact, I think I see another one. I believe a marula tree is also on the bingo list. So there you go. And essentially it works just like your normal game of bingo. You can find all of the details on the Nat Geo Wild website. And we'll be sneaking a couple of words in as well. Some things we'll tell you when it's a bingo item, some things we won't. And there'll be secret words that just get thrown into every odd sentence, which means that you have to really seriously listen. Not, of course, that I'm suggesting that you don't listen, obviously. Hey, gentlemen. I'm still trying to make it my mission in the times that I am driving to try and catch an impala birth on TV or on live TV. I think that would be probably one of the most magical moments to actually be able to share with you all. Something that is such a, what's the word I'm looking for? A key moment in every year. It's that perfect. It's like the woodlands kingfishers coming back. It marks the point in the season that we enjoy. And it also tells us a lot about the weather. The impala seem to have a far better handle on what's going to happen in terms of rain and the seasons. It's very bright. Preparation for Big Cat Week and all of the stuff we have to get ready, we're making sure that we bring you the best possible safari experience. What that does mean is that although we'll be operating as normal for our afternoon shows, it means that our sunrise safari, which is only from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Central African time. So we're cutting short the last 2 hours. It is crucial preparation time for us all, and we really appreciate you guys being as supportive as you have been. And I promise you that it will let's find out. Everything should be hiding away in the shade. Keep your eyes peeled. I know that Karula is somewhere wandering around here. I heard her calling last night, at least I suspect it's Karula. Most likely her, just because it was right outside Ingers, which is where we live. And it's the center of her, pretty much the center of her territory. She must be here somewhere. Of course, the wonder of Big Cat Week and all of our Nat Geo Wild shows is that we get the additional expertise of two incredible trackers. No, that's not going to stop. I spotted a greater spotted cuckoo, but it's flying on a mission. I don't think we're going to be able to stop and see it. And it's amazing how a couple of days like this and already most of the groundwater has started to disappear. As soon as the sun comes out, with a little bit of wind, that evaporation takes away most of the moisture that is around us. Just hiding away. Oh. And the minute they realize that playing hard to spot hasn't worked, they tend to duck away and move into thicker patches of undergrowth while we try to shift around to have a look at him. I know that V. Wilson and many others, you were saying that you're very keen to see a picture of young Junior. Well, we'll have to see if we can arrange that. We'll have a look. Oh, sorry, little boy. I came around the corner and he was standing in the road. There he is. He's actually stopped nicely for us. Oh, he had stopped nicely for us. Bye. Definitely one of my favorite antelope species. Being somewhat small in stature myself, I think I quite easily identify with him. We're on to the southern boundary of Djuma, and directly to the west of us is Arathusa, and we're seeing some amazing lion movements happening at the moment. Obviously the Birmingham boys have kind of spread themselves out all the way along here and then up into Torchwood. A couple of them seem to be mating. There's one at least that is mating with the lioness we suspect is a Styx female. Then there is one unknown male in Buffelshoek. And he's not one of the Birmingham boys. We're still trying to work out who he is. We haven't seen him ourselves, obviously, because that's outside of our traverse zone. But he is, I suspect, he's not one of the Salatis and he's not one of the Birminghams. He could maybe be one of the Matimba males, the northern Matimba males, not our southern pair. We're just going to have to wait and see if we can work out who it is, and hopefully he's going to pop along south. And I think that with all of this disruption, I think it's actually what's really put so much pressure on that poor Ximhungwe group. What did you spot, sorry? Oh, is there a cuckoo there? I was busy looking at the steerbook, my bad. Is he gone? Oh, now he's gone. Oh, Wium's eyes are keener. Oh, sorry, Wium. Sorry, everybody. I got distracted by the steerbook. I can still see him. Except now, no, I can't. Now he's very much flown away. Okay, next one. Oh, he's been mobbed by a drongo. Let's try and get this. Oh, he's he stopped somewhere. The drongo was mobbing him. Let's just see if I can spot him. Don't see him anywhere. The drongo chased him away. Now, of course, with all cuckoo species, they get mobbed by the other smaller passerines, the other smaller birds. And that's because those birds know that cuckoos are going to parasitize their nests. And that's what they're aiming to do. Now, in that case, it looked like a greater spotted cuckoo, but it could have been a red-chested cuckoo. It was difficult to tell flying at high speed. But if it is a greater spotted cuckoo, then the drongo doesn't really fall into its host species list. Generally, the greater spotted cuckoo parasitizes. Oh no, it does. It does. I'm sorry. It does parasitize drongos. That would explain why the drongo, as a fierce little bird, and they can be incredibly fierce. We've seen them mobbing harrier hawks and other big birds of prey before. That explains why it was frantically chasing them away, or her away, from the nest. And cuckoos are a fascinating species, or at least family of different species. It's something that nobody really entirely knows exactly how it was that they came to be evolved to parasitize the nest of other birds. This is another one. They're all on the move though. None of them want to really sit down nicely and be on camera. I guess they're feeling a little bit shy. Well, my first time back into Arathusa for a very long time. Let's see what we can find around here. Of course, the next seasonal milestone, apart from the births of the impala and the wildebeest calves, is going to be the fruiting of the marula trees. That's going to be in the next 2 months or so. I've already seen a couple of raw fruits dropping down, and that's one of my favorite times of year because it means you get fruit on the go. Wherever you are in the bush, you'll be able to find fruit to eat, and it's really delicious. Got a very sweet but slightly tart taste to it. Nice, fleshy and juicy fruit. One of the reasons that I am on Arathusa is I do just need to check the game drive channel. I want to do this now whilst the vehicles are all launching from the lodge, so a lot of the lodge guests are going to be going out and drive now. So bear with me, because I'm going to just test it on the handset, and then I'm going to test it on a separate piece, separate radio. Afternoon stations, Jamie, WildEarth. Can I have routes and sightings updates, please? Copy that, thank you. So good. I wonder where Shadow went. She could well have come back somewhere in this direction. Last time we saw her, she was right on the fringes of her territory, on the border that she shares with her mother, in that western edge of Djuma up by Sandy Patch Road. I wonder if she hasn't started looping back around in this direction. She's just finished mating with Tingana, and I suspect that that is where that limp came from. She was suffering a bit from. Nothing, I don't think it was too serious. It looked to me more to be her right front paw. But I'll try and find out from the other side. Sorry. was fooled by myself perfectly into what looked like a lion track. All 4 feet of the scrub here had sort of grouped together. I'm going to struggle to be able to show it to you because it's in the shade, but they grouped them together like the 4 toes of a lion paw print. Interesting, coming back to Arathusa now, to have a look at the distribution of the general game species. It is incredibly quiet out here, and it makes you wonder about, at the moment, the quality of the grasses that are growing around here. That generally determines your soil types and then your grass types, which are dependent on your soil types and your rainfall. That determines what animals you're going to see. And we've noticed both on Djuma and on Arathusa this gradual drop in both zebra and wildebeest sighting. And it's all to do with moving across down sort of to the southern areas and to the gabbro soils where the grass is slightly more nutritious at this time of year. Right, well, we shall end off our enthralling discussion about the different types of grass out here and head across to Mr. James Henry, who is up and about and wanting to say hello.
Hello, everybody. We are now, obviously, you're not looking at my face, so I'm staring blankly at the camera for no reason. You're watching us from the air. Drone Commander Andrew Francis is following us as we drive around quarantine clearings on this hot and rather beautiful low-felt afternoon. Give him a wave, Bryan. Bryan is on camera. My name is James, in case you were confused. And we're going to be doing a little trip to Buffelshoek, and we'll see what's over there. Thereafter, we'll probably head off to Arathusa and see what's going on there. So, you're most welcome, of course, and sorry for our late start. We had that's wonderful English. We had a few problems with our radios, but they're now up and running. I have the sultry tones of Taradales in my ear at full volume, and so I will follow all instructions to the letter as the afternoon carry on. Now, as you know, Jamie's told you, we are on a live safari, #SafariLIVE, if you want to talk to us, or questions at WildEarth.tv if you want to talk to us on the email. The other one, of course, is a Twitter handle, and you can see the extent of quarantine. And I noticed, I was sitting in the tent yesterday, of course, and I noticed how I've been in the tent for 3 days, and from 3 days ago to now, the rain that we've had has unquestionably created more greenness in the grass. My first time in the tent, when we were flying over quarantine, those wonderful pictures that you're getting now, it was very brown around under the green trees, and I just found even just the last 3 days that we've had have changed the color of the grass here to this amazing green. And also, I mean, that drone shot gives you an amazing perspective of how sparse some of the vegetation is. I mean, from when we're looking at it around here now, and we might go back to the drone if it's still up, you look around here, it looks verdant green. And now I want you to compare that with what you can see now on the drone. You can see that the grass is not a sort of thick carpet of grazing material, and that's because of the dry season we had last year and the grazing pressure that was put on these clearings and the lack of rain that's helped the grass sward replenish itself. So we're going to carry on now, and also wonderful to try and spot a couple of animals from the air, and if you spot any, please, well, I don't suppose shouting will help from where you're sitting, but it would be very helpful. It's always helpful to spot things from the air, very useful indeed, and another great way to spot animals out here. So we're heading up to a junction. You can probably see it. We're on quarantine, the western edge of quarantine, and we're going to head on to Vuyatela access. That's the main access road. That's the junction we're coming to now. We're going to turn left onto that. Then we're going to turn almost immediately right onto a road called Gallagher Shortcut. That will lead us down or up towards the Buffelshoek cut line. and from there we will head in an easterly direction towards Buffelshoek Dam, and hopefully we'll find something there. It's a hot day, and because of the heat of the day, we're expecting perhaps there will be things out there that are drinking, hopefully a couple of birds. We've seen two lovely birds there, and they're not really very exciting if you're not a twitcher or an ornithologist. A wood sandpiper once and a green shank yesterday. Both birds that have migrated from huge distances in Eurasia, and they've come out here to Buffelshoek Dam. Perhaps not the best choice at this time of year, but still we love having them here. They're not, like I say, great brightly coloured parrots or impressively clawed raptors, but just amazing little birds like that that have flown thousands and thousands of miles to come and enjoy the summer with us, and it's just such a privilege to have them here with us. Beautiful afternoon. I would say it's probably about 32 or 33 degrees Celsius, and that will put the temperature at around about 85, I think, Fahrenheit. Maybe not quite that hot. 83. Still quite a lot of moisture in the air that's evaporating from the rains that we've had. It's supposed to get hotter tomorrow, and then hotter again on Thursday, up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about Celsius. That's beastly hot. That is in the realm of lying in a pool of lava. And then hopefully, come the weekend, we'll have another thunderstorm or two, which would just be very special. Not ideal for broadcasting, of course, the rain, but it is so wonderful. When those big thunderheads come rolling in out of the west, I have to tell you, the feeling I get is one of complete awe and wonderment, and I just absolutely love it. Now, I'm sure some of you would have been watching this morning when we had to, unfortunately for you, go to our rehearsals. And just to keep you posted, you didn't miss a huge amount in terms of animals. We had some very nice lion interaction. There's 3 Ximhungwe lions, 2 females and 1 male that came onto the reserve last night, and they arrived at the hyena den. And in fact, before we go to Buffelshoek Dam, I think we're on the right road, so we'll just pop into the hyena den and see if they aren't there. The hyenas, I mean. It was the most astonishing sight. We were sitting watching the hyenas. Some of you would have seen this, and the lions just arrived. And the hyenas scarpered all over the place. The very little one went back into the hole. The 6-month-old went back into the hole, and they disappeared completely. And then the hyena kind of surrounded these 3 scraggly sub-adult lions. And eventually, one of them actually gave one of the lions a nip on the bottom. She turned around and growled, and then they all ran away again. And then eventually the lions moved off in that sort of direction there. They're probably still on the property, and we'll go and have a look at them a little bit later to see what they've been up to. I'm 99% sure that they will have been up to absolutely nothing at all, given that is what lions like to do in the middle of a hot day like we've had. So we're going to sneak quietly up towards the hyena den now. Watch your heads, everyone. Don't see any lions. There were about 7 hyenas, 7 adults here this morning, right, Bryan? Is that including or 6-month-old? Excluding. Including. Excluding. So, about 7 adults that were here today. Ariel. What do we stop to? We're going to stop for about 5 minutes and just see if nothing happens. And I want to tell you something about what happens with lions when hyenas arrive. So, this is where we were sitting earlier today. When the lions arrived, and they arrived from just behind where your picture is now, and the hole that you can see there, the hyenas disappeared into, and that's probably where the youngster is now. Now, what we found out yesterday from some interesting papers that Steph managed to get hold of was that when lions are around, the hyenas will not hang around to defend the cub. They won't hang around to defend the den. So with those lions pitched up there, the adults went. They assessed the situation, assessed the threat, saw that the youngsters went down into the hole, figured that they were probably relatively safe down there, and then they came in and they surrounded the lions, harassed them a little bit until the lions moved off, but they will not come back to this place until they're sure that the lions are not around. Those 3 sub-adult lions are some impala there. That's not what made that noise. It's some elephants just up towards the cut line there, and we'll head up towards there now. Sounds like they're on the Buffelshoek cut line. But, so the lions, those 3 sub-adult lions are not a huge threat. Well, they are. They're bigger than hyena, but for a clan of, say, 8 hyena, well, there were 8 around here at the time, those 3 sub-adult lions are pretty evenly matched, especially given how scraggly and sort of, not injured, but certainly beaten up the young male was. Anyway, my dulcet voice is not bringing the youngster out of its hole, so I think we're going to carry on towards Buffelshoek Dam and see what we can find there. Possibly those elephants on the way. I can just show you the nyala that are hanging around here, which is indicative of the fact that the hyena are just not here. The adults have moved off, and I think probably in an attempt to sort of distract the lions and lure them away from where the youngster might be. So that's what's going on here. Wonderful afternoon. Okay, so while we're getting out of this particular place, let's go across to... I'm actually quite jealous of you now. You're going to see Brent Leo Smith. He's got quite an interesting piece of bush ecology with him, but how he is going to display it to you, I think, is going to be profoundly amusing. So I'll hand you over to him, and I'll see you on the Buffelshoek cut line.
Now, we're here with which is probably a leadwood stump, and it's been smoothed incredibly. And there's quite a few clues which lead us to which animal's done this. I'm pretty sure the majority of this rubbing has been done by a buffalo. And quite useful if you're a buffalo. You go coat yourself in mud, you get some of those ectoparasites, ticks, to get encased in that mud. And you find a convenient low, not too sharp branch like this, and then you rub on it. And I think James is asking for me to demonstrate how a buffalo rubs. I shall do that shortly. But I always check very carefully around these things. Quite often you'll actually find dead ticks around the base. Unfortunately, none today. But even if you break up all those little bits of soil, sometimes you find ticks encased in it. So very, really fascinating. And there are some mud wallows around here. You quite often find these very well-used rubbing posts around mud wallows. So the buffalo use them extensively. So just to keep James happy, and why I'm not sure, I shall demonstrate how a buffalo might want to use this. Obviously, I'm bipedal, a buffalo is not. It's a quadruped on 4 legs. So here we go. So he would probably walk over it like this, and he doesn't have hands to scratch, and he would just get there and he'd rub his belly on it and under his arm and all over the place, just to be able to get to those hard to reach places. And here we go, that was a bit of exercise, and quite uncomfortable exercise, I do admit. But while we're in this area, before we disappear into the drainage system, my name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Genre on camera, and welcome to SafariLIVE's Bushwalk. So just over here, I noticed as we were walking a bit earlier, there's an incredible species of insect, and now we're going to challenge Genre's camera work to the maximum. And challenge my dancing skills. So after rubbing my belly, I'm going to go find us a very interesting species of ant that occurs on these open sort of patches like this. It's called a pugnacious ant, and it is quite pugnacious. So when you walk near their holes, we'll see if we can get a long distance visual before I stand there, because I'm not going to stand there for too long, because they do bite quite painfully. And see what I do for you guys. We can see them there, and they scurry around at high speeds. And if you stand too long, like Genre is actually almost being... Oh, look, actually they're making a kill at the moment. So they're ferocious little hunters. Oh, they're everywhere. So here we go. I can't see what they've got there. I'm going to try getting a little bit closer, try to see what it is. Sorry about my shadow. And I've got to be careful, otherwise I'll be their next victim. So it is a piece of a dung beetle is what I can see. The midsection, the legs there, and the inside. Ground with those ants, we're now up in the tree. We heard these birds mobbing incessantly. The starlings making a huge racket, puffed back shrikes, and we both thought, John and I, were like, oh, there must be a snake. So we dashed across to check, and we're busy trying to just find it now. There we go. There's a big male boomslang in the tree. Boomslang basically means, it's an Afrikaans word which means tree snake, and it's a male because of the coloration, and I can tell because of the size of the eye. They've got huge eyes. There we go. Look at that. Incredible camouflage. And without the birds, the likelihood of us finding it would have been almost nothing. Isn't that incredible? So the birds haven't moved off too far. Now, boomslangs are incredibly good nest raiders, and that's why the birds attack them constantly. Oh, there we go, a little bit of movement. So this is a backed fang snake, and what that means is it's venomous. Its venom glands are situated very far back in its mouth, and its fangs that the venom come out are right at the back of its mouth. So even though it's highly, highly venomous, and one of the most venomous snakes in the world, the amount that it takes to kill a person without treatment is less than the human eye can see. So those fangs are very different from, say, a mamba or a cobra's fangs. They are grooved, so solid and grooved, and their venom is very viscous, so very thick. And they really have to sort of bite on and chew something to inject, and then they will, once that thing has been bitten, they will then track it and to find it if it moves away. It is a hemotoxic venom, and what that means is it affects the blood, and it basically will cause you, if you're bitten and without treatment, to bleed out of all your different orifices, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth. So not a very pleasant thing to be bit on, but a very shy and retiring snake. Most of the time, very, very scared of people. They really, really try to avoid confrontation. Also, one of their favorite foods, which I know you guys have been seeing on the game drives, are baby weavers. So they go into the nests and eat those baby weavers straight from the nest. You go, it might look like a bit of movement. It's going to be really fascinating. We're going to keep looking at it for a little bit, then we're going to move back, and we should see some of these birds immediately fly back and start harassing the snake. Or he might come down into a bit better place for us to view him. So the female is almost gunmetal grey, olive, and the male is this wonderful green. So the large eye is one of the diagnostic features of the snake. And this is quite a big one. Look at that, isn't that incredible? The movements are just so fluid. You can see his tongue flicking out, tasting the air. Picks up a lot of information from his tongue. I'm just going to try and move around. Jeandre is going to keep still. I'm hooked on a thorn tree. Give me. There we go. I've escaped. But he's coming down closer to us. Oh, this is incredible. Coming right towards us at the moment. Coming to have a look. Oh, that could be. Is that a little sunbird's nest? Is that what he's been after? Oh my goodness. He's going to the nest. Come round, Jeandre. Come round. He's gone. He's got his head in the nest. There's nothing in the nest though. Oh, the little sunbird. The grey sunbird's coming. You can hear the sunbird behind that high-pitched trill. So this is a male Boomslang. Khada and Barbara just wanted to double check. And they'd also like to know the spelling. It is B-O-O-M, which is boom, which is tree in Afrikaans, and then slang, S-L-A-N-G, which is snake in Afrikaans. So basically translates to tree snake. They are incredibly arboreal species. They spend a lot of time in the trees. And he's been moving through this buffalo thorn that is full of incredibly hooked thorns and has not had an issue at all. Sorry guys, I misidentified the bird's nest that it was. It was a little, actually crombeck, I think. I can't really see it, but you can hear it trilling. It's actually following the snake. And all of this is happening less than, probably about five feet from us. And obviously the snakes found that there was nothing in the nest. And it might go down to the ground. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stay right with the snake. He might escape us if he gets onto the ground, move into an area we're not going to follow him. But he'll probably move from tree to tree at this time of the year looking for baby birds. But we'll be right back with this guy a little later. You can see he might go underneath that little underneath that fallen down branch there. You can hear how upset the little bird is. That constant trrr, trrr is alarm calling. Oh, he's going up again. Isn't this incredible? Can you just see his back going over that log now? And you can see, even though he came down to where that little nest was, being a more arboreal species, he would much prefer to move between the trees than go to the ground and go to a new area to search for food. And he's moving through this ziziphus or buffalo thorn, which is an incredibly thorny tree. And he's managing to move through between all the little hooked and straight thorns. I'm just going to move around so we don't lose him on the other side. It's amazing, that camouflage. I took my eyes off him for a second, and I can't see him anymore. Jandre, do you still have him? Where is he? Has he gone up? This is such a strange experience, because now I feel like I'm blind. I mean, I picked him up so nicely earlier. I cannot see him now. It's amazing. As soon as they keep still, they do tend to disappear. I'm just going to come. Okay, Andre's got him. Okay, look. If we're going to we might be able to follow the snake for quite a while, which would be really, really interesting and not something you often get to do. And we'll just see if he's going to move out of this little buffalo thorn thicket. And quite often, you might find them at night. You see them sleeping. They sleep right at the tops of trees. You can sometimes pick them up in the spotlights. Sorry about that. That was me trying to get underneath Jandre. I just bumped him slightly. And I've gone absolutely blind. I still can't see him. That's why I'm just trying to sneak in here. Okay. Which branch is he on, Jandre? No, that's fine. You stay with him. I must just improve my eyesight. Should have eaten that carrot that was sitting in the fridge. Is he still moving?
He's staying at me.
Staying right at you. Where's most of his body? Hiding.
He's our height with me.
Our height with you.
About 3 meters up.
First, second, or third tree coming up, or branch coming up?
Surface north is 1.5 meters.
Okay. That's a good place to start, I think. And it is absolutely incredible, the camouflage. Look at that eye. I mean, and there's that wonderful saying about reptilian stillness. And look at that. And they are can be incredibly still when they need to be. Jandre is doing a sterling job keeping that still handheld. Look at that. That is incredible. I mean, it's not very often you get to see a snake in the wild for this long. Normally they dash away at high speed. You can still hear the birds around. And Jandre just asked me, sorry guys, his hat got caught in the thorn tree. I'm just going to try remove it. There we go. So we're definitely going to stay. I'm very interested to see whether the snake moves or it carries on. It's going to sort of wait it out in this buffalo thorn. So it's been absolutely incredible. We're still with the snake. There's still the little, it looks like a crombeck, which is a tiny little bird species that could be that crombeck's nest, and that the snake has gone into and tried to look for eggs or babies. And we found the snake with a whole bunch of birds attacking it in the tree, making an incredible noise, a behavior called mobbing. And we've been enjoying probably one of the best snake sightings I've ever had in my 32 years in the bush. This is just absolutely spectacular. And now Jean-Andre has got an ant crawling on the snake, or right next to the snake. So a little crombeck's dancing around. It might actually dance right up towards the snake's head. So that's the bird whose nest we probably think this is. And Furu is wondering, how does this boomslang move through this mass of thorns without its skin being impaled? Well, those scales are very, very smooth and almost silky. So it's able to sort of, there's nothing for the thorn to hook in. I mean, it'd be very unlikely for a thorn to hook in the gap between the scales. They're so tightly packed. And you can see that mouth there, and you just see it. Oh, there we go, a little bit of movement. Almost looks like he's shaking his head at us. So the snake is probably just 1.2 meters long. Probably almost about as long as my stick without the top part of it. And he's just sitting there. I mean, to give you an idea, he is 2-3 feet from Jean-Andre. So I'm just going to try, sorry if I bump Jean-Andre, I'm going to try to scoot around him so I can see the rest of the snake's body. There does definitely seem to be a bulge. Oh, I'm stuck in the thorn bush again. And it is possible he has eaten something. Nothing too big. So the bulge is probably 50% of the way down the snake. And there is definitely a bump there. So maybe he managed to get a baby crombeck, and that's why the birds were going so ballistic. But for me, that large eye of a boomslang is just one of the most incredible things. Look at that little tongue flicking in and out. It's almost like he's almost a little bit curious about us. So, oh, look at that. You see, his tongue almost works like his nose. It's tasting and sensing things around. It's picking up different information. Oh, this is incredible. I mean, we are literally 3.5, not even 3 foot from the snake, and he's carrying on like we're not even here. You can see that slow, and you can see how he goes past the thorns there. We'll see now when his body comes close to a thorn again. I mean, he's right on a thorn, and he's just not getting impaled. The thorn just slides over the body. And look at that. So, those very big eyes, which are a very distinct feature of a boomslang. Donna was wondering, does that mean they are more active at night? Actually, Donna, not. A boomslang is very much a diurnal snake species. They might move around a bit at night, but the majority of the time, almost all their hunting in that is daytime. And that big eye, could be used for moving around and spotting little bits of movement in nests or birds. I mean, they are quite and very much a sort of sneak attack predator. They don't pounce or use their speed or anything to get there. And because they really need to get hold of whatever they're eating to inject that venom. This is definitely one of the best snake sightings I've had in my 32 years in the bush. Quite often they move away very quickly. Said most snakes are more scared of us than we are of them. It's a very, very beautiful snake. Slow, methodical movement. It almost looks like it might want to go back and check that nest again. I wonder if it's a baby crombeck in its belly. So with a lot of reptiles, and specifically snakes, gender is one of the more difficult things to tell. And the reason I'm able to say quite confidently that this is a male Boomslang is because the female is gunmetal grey. Cindy, I hope that helps. And the male is green, and you do see those sort of dark markings in between, moving right up to the top of the tree. It might be trying to move to the next tree. Right up. It could also just stop up there and decide that that's a good spot to rest. And I said you do find them occasionally in the spotlight at night sleeping right up the top of a tree like this. And obviously those thorns do offer quite a bit of protection to the snake. So on that little nest, we saw the snake raid earlier. Joanne from Arizona is saying it could be a penduline tit nest. It could be, but I don't think it is. I think it is a crombeck nest. A penduline tit nest has a fake entrance and is very distinct, very similar, but slightly different shape. And this has got a single entrance and open. Probably built with a lot of the same fibers with spider webs. And we will try, once we've finished viewing the snake, get a closer look at that nest. When I first originally saw it, I thought it also might be a little sunbird's nest. They also build very similar nests to that. It looks like the snake might cross to the next tree. We've noticed that snake move his head from side to side and back and forth occasionally. And Jeffrey from Texas is wondering, do they do that to get better depth perception? Jeffrey, I'm afraid I can't be 100% sure on that. Sometimes, though, I know certain animals do it to try entice movement from another animal. So just that little bit of movement gets a reaction. But I'm not sure whether it's to get better depth perception. But hopefully, I will try to find out for you. Just, if you hear me bashing around a little bit, I'm just trying to make sure Genre doesn't get a buffalo thorn in the leg. I'm just pushing the branch away. There we go. So guys, we're going to keep a very close eye on this beautiful male boomslang, and we are going to stay here just in case something interesting happens. But we're going to go check in with Jamie, who's at the Arathusa waterhole.
And what an incredible festival of interesting things the bush has been treating us to. I'm at Arathusa Dam and it is no different. I've been watching the hippos at the back. They're all wearing waterweed islands, and I will tell you something about them. That this waterweed that's growing here is thick enough for a legovan or a water monitor to walk all the way across. And the reason I know that is that Wium and myself have just spent the entire time watching a legovan cross from one side to the other, a water monitor. But walking, not swimming, walking across the waterweeds, it's incredible. And if we look up a bit further to the right, to another hippo that is wearing a... Oh, there's two there. There's three there. That's amazing. They all blended into one. I think there's three hippo there. I can definitely see two. Yes, that must be a third in between them. Definitely providing plenty of entertainment. And further to the right, for those of you who have been following the story of the baby hippo, where is she? She's there. I'm looking there. There we go. Thank you, Brent. There's our little baby hippo, who is doing so well. Absolutely adorable. We're watching her bob up and down all the time. She has been nicknamed Lily by one of our regular younger viewers. She's absolutely adorable. Anyway, well, it's been fun to explore, but I've got to head out further into Arathusa. So from one waterhole to the next, let's have a look at the Djuma waterhole from the sky.
Well, this time last year I was able to look at that waterhole and see hippo in there. I'd see elephants come down every afternoon to drink, buffalo wallowing in there on the sides of the waterhole, lion and leopard, everything, wild dog coming down to that waterhole that we're looking at right now. The dry pan, Viatella dam or waterhole there, and there is not a drop in there. There's even a catfish graveyard in the middle of that. It is so dry, but just to the bottom of your screen, or in the middle of the screen right now, there's a small pool there, or pond that has a water supply from the lodge, and there's a creature in there that is absolutely fantastic, but he's all alone at the moment, and he's in a very, very small pool. It is a hippo, and carrying on from Jamie's hippos there, the complete opposite to where they are. A lot of water left in there and a lot of hippo. This sole or solitary bull at the moment, or lone bull I should say, he was quite badly injured, but he's now recovering, and hippos have this incredible ability to recover very, very quickly when they get wounded from either a battle or an accident, or even an encounter with a predator outside the water. But he seems to be coming on quite well, and looking down there we can see him, and there's a situation that happens down there in those water holes sometimes when it's a small water hole and the hippo is in there for long enough. The feces and urine from the hippo gets the pond into a state called eutrophication. Now, eutrophication means that there will be a toxic bloom of algae that will eventuate, and it has been recorded where lion, different antelope, buffalo have come down to drink from that water and died very, very quickly after from the toxification or the toxic algae in that eutrophied pond. So when it does happen, there can be instances where the hippos actually have to be translocated or captured and moved to another pond. Hopefully that's not going to happen there. Anyway, we're going to go and just go up there and have a little look down one more time, and it's a fantastic tool. I love to call it a tool because it's something that gives us the ability to see Africa from the air, and what an incredible thing it is. So beautiful. But hopefully in the next few weeks we're going to get some serious downpours, and via Tella Dam there will be getting some serious water in it as well. So we might cross back over to Brent with that incredible, absolutely magnificent sighting, and I have to agree with him, the most incredible snake boomslang sighting I've ever seen, and really, really incredible stuff. Let's see what he's up to.
So he's on the move again. He's come right down to near the base of the tree. He is heading back towards that nest again. Maybe there's eggs in there. Sort of keeps glancing back, wondering what we're going to do. He's probably 9 inches from the nest. And making a very cautious approach of the nest. Oh, don't know what happened there. It looked like he got little frights. You can just see, isn't that absolutely stunning? The light on his eye there for a second. He's going down to the nest. His head's approaching. He's going in the nest. Is there something still in that nest? Nope, doesn't look like it. So I think the birds were around him when he was at the nest last time. He might have got a single baby from that bulge in his belly, but now he's actually coming right towards us again. And he's, again, right next to me. You can see how incredibly close we are and how incredibly relaxed the snake is. Oh, he is absolutely gorgeous. See his tongue flicking, and you see when he tastes something in the air, it just stays out for that millisecond longer and almost stiffens. So he's in the search for food at the moment, and probably been hibernating for the majority of the winter months. And Donna is wondering, how often does a snake have to eat? Well, Donna, when there's plenty of food around, the snake will take as much time as possible and as much food as possible and really sort of get in on the feeding action. And this is one of their times of plenty with all the baby birds around. And once they're really full, they'll probably sit and digest for a few days. So to be safe at the moment, if it's only eating sort of once a week, it should be fine. It'll probably eat more than once a week and then just rest for a longer period in between. Also, all depends on their chasing of the ladies. And obviously, females will generally have to eat a little bit more than males. And the reason for this is that they've got to produce eggs. And there he goes again. He's actually moving almost directly towards me now. And I've just found a little spot to sit down. I'm just going to keep very, very still because I'm probably now a meter from the snake. If he does come too close, I will move away. Don't worry, guys. As I said, it's not a very aggressive snake. Hey, little guy. And probably far more scared of me than I am of him. Isn't this absolutely incredible? And it's amazing that this is not a snake that's been handled before. It's just the fact that we haven't pushed any pressure on the snake that he's behaving like this close to us. And we've just kept our distance. He's coming down to ground right next to me. Isn't this amazing? And he's going to move off to one of the next trees to see what else he can find. Isn't this absolutely amazing? So we're going to try and follow him as he moves on hunting. This is definitely the first time I've ever gone on a hunt with a snake for this long. Normally you just see that action, you pick up the movement, but to be able to follow the snake through the bush. So he's on the ground. While he's on the ground, I'm going to give him a bit more space. We don't want to scare him. And he's moving through to the next set of bushes. And I'm just going to have to move a little bit quickly. I don't want to lose sight, because you saw how difficult it can be once you lose sight to find him again. So he was making his way towards here. I just have to check carefully now. Where did he go? Did he go up, or did he carry on along the ground? I'm just going to pop around the other side of this bush, see if I can see. Sometimes it's just good to just stand still and stare. There we go. And pick up that tiny little bit of movement. Isn't this wonderful? So I just got that little bit of movement. He was going into this big thorny acacia next. We just want to watch the ground in front. Oh. Obviously we don't want to disturb. So just going to sit and wait here now. I got that little bit of movement going towards this, so now I'm going to keep still and see if we can pick up any more movement. He might have done a disappearing act on us. Just check every little branch so carefully, because if he is in one of those moments of reptilian stillness, just blends into the surrounding bush. Looks just like another branch. Quite often they will zigzag and up, so we're just going to check this little spike thorn again quickly. Make sure it hasn't come up. So, as I was saying, this is possibly one of the most exciting snake sightings I've had in my 32 years in the bush. And Zuki in New Mexico said this is one of their top 10 SafariLIVE sightings. Zuki, me too. This is absolutely incredible. Okay, so unfortunately, I have lost sight, but we just want to double check carefully every little branch. I'm going to give it another 2 minutes. And if we don't find him again in the next 2 minutes, we will move along. But I'm just going to go through this gap here quickly and have a closer look. So the last place I picked up a little bit of movement was going into this. Sometimes it helps to just slow down. There's a wonderful, wonderful saying that I'm going to get to in a moment. It is possible it could have gone into one of these holes. I mean, although they are primarily arboreal, they will definitely go into these holes as well. So it was incredible. He came down onto the ground less than a meter from me and just slowly moved through into this sort of broken thickets here. Unfortunately, we lost sight of him. I think he might have gone into one of these holes, but we're just stopping here and checking very carefully if we can find him again. And there's a wonderful, wonderful little saying I learned, which I've had to use many times in my life. It was from my art teacher when I was quite young, and he was my favorite teacher. He was also a fly fisherman. And I always tend to get really excited and run around like a madman. And he said, he wrote down on a piece of paper in his beautifully elegant handwriting, festa lenta, which means rush slowly. And I've always, when I start getting too excited, always just remember that little saying. And sometimes if you just slow down, it can really help you in spotting the snake in this circumstance. Okay. So I think he has made his escape quite well. And I don't want to start sort of really moving around too much. We've had such an incredible sighting from him, and there would be no need to disturb him after that. And that was amazing. I'm just going to move through the thorn bush. And while we do that, there are certain bird species that prey on snakes, and adrenaline rush is wondering, she said she's heard that there are certain snakes that are immune, so birds that are immune to the snake venom, and they feed off snakes extensively. Well, I'm not sure if they're immune. A bird like a snake eagle has got these incredibly thick scales on their legs, no feathers, so I think the most part the snake's fangs are unable to penetrate the thick scales on those snake eagles. And another bird that really likes snakes, like secretary birds, they're also incredibly quick. They kick, and they're able to kill the snakes like that. And then ground hornbill, he will actually grab. They're incredibly, for a big bird, incredibly quick. And there's a wonderful folklore about it, but I will tell you about that a little bit later. But we're going to cross back across to Jamie and see what she's been up to.
That's definitely one of my favorite snakes out here, definitely top 5. I think that they are probably one of the most beautiful that we have. Whilst Brent has been following snakes, I've been following my nose. I've come to a corner of Arathusa that I'm pretty certain I've never been to before. I'm in the far northwestern corner and exploring here, and so far it's proved to be quite a beautiful journey. Some really stunning views. And because it's drainage lines, the foliage is thick and green and beautiful. What I am doing is I've just picked up, just before Brent came across or sent you across to me, picked up some male leopard tracks coming into the drainage line. It looks like they're going straight towards Red Dam. That is, of course, if I'm where I think I am. I don't want to just double check in the block here. Now, my suspicion would be that it is Tingana, but you never know because we're right on the boundary with his territory with the Anderson male. Definitely worth checking carefully and going fairly slowly. I've seen Tingana somewhere here before when I first started working here. Unfortunately, it was when I was very, very new and I was still completely unfamiliar with the road names. I think let's go and have a look and see what we can find at Red Dam. And then after that, I'm going to head straight back towards the Ximhungwe. It's getting a little bit cooler. The sun is starting to go down and they should be getting up and about soon. And from what I could see, they were looking very, very hungry. It'd be nice to follow them for this evening and see what they get up to. cool. Let's try and find a nice position. They're having to be pretty selective in this area. Most of what's around them is a silver cluster leaf, and silver cluster leaves aren't really the best food for browsers. They're very, very astringent. She's got interesting stripes as well. It's like she's missing one in the middle of her back. She's quite hidden away, but her companion, I'm going to shift forward a little bit and maybe we can see there's also a teenage boy with them. Hello, girl. Peekaboo. Poking her head out around a buffalo thorn. Definitely one of the most graceful and elegant. There's that boy. Just starting to get his horns. He's probably only about a year or so old. He hasn't got that thick neck that the mature bulls start to develop. And just those tiny horns. And of course, most of you will be familiar with what an adult kudu bull looks like, with its spiraling, magnificent head of horns. And the consequence of that is, as they keep growing throughout the kudu's lifespan, the kudu's neck has to become thicker and stronger every single year to sort of cope with the weight of that head of horns. All right, guys. They're moving off into quite thick bush. I'm going to try and shift forward so we've got one last... Oh, no, he's going to go the other way. I think that's probably the best view we're going to get for now without disturbing them. You can see how that female's ears are turned back. They've almost done a complete 180, and that's because at the moment she's looking away from me, but she knows I'm there. So every now and again she twitches them back in our direction. And they've got completely independent control over each ear. It's a brilliant way of double checking whatever the threat is. So she wants to keep not an eye on us, she basically wants to keep an ear on us and just make sure that we don't get up to any mischief, but she still wants to feed on that tree facing that direction. Oh, there's a load of kudu. I'm going to stop because I think if I reverse now, this little female is going to run away. Right, girl. She's going to move away from us. Also, probably about the same age as that male. Just past that year-old mark. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kudu that have all moved past us. Beautifully elegant antelope. Also, if there is a male leopard within this block, there would be a perfect snack size for him. Not snack size, a perfect meal size for him. But they better keep their eyes and ears out because there's definitely a male leopard somewhere around here. Whilst I regain my bearings and figure out where we are, I believe that Brent has some wonderful multi-legged creatures to show you. So let's have a look at what he's seeing.
So we're back with the pugnacious ants, and for a punishment, because I lost that snake, Jean-Andre has recommended that I stand and give you a true explanation of why they're called pugnacious ants. And look at them, they're attacking me. Okay, I'm gone. Oh, okay, that's why they're called pugnacious ants. And they actually, I need to, wait, there we go. Jean-Andre has closed shoes on, so he's in a much better spot than me. But they are incredibly pugnacious. So if you step anywhere near their hole and they feel those ow vibrations, they actually swarm your feet, or swarm. I mean, I've even seen them upset buffalo when buffalo have been lying down. They're just literally so many pugnacious ants that are to bite a buffalo. But the most interesting thing about a pugnacious ant is the fact that in this part of the world, they form over 90% of a pangolin's diet. And for those who don't know what a pangolin is, it is a scaly anteater. It is an incredible creature. And hopefully, one day we'll be able to show you one on SafariLIVE, and the best place to look for them is where you've got a lot of pugnacious ants. So we're going to move now down towards the drainage line and see if we can find anything there. But there is just so much out in this beautiful summer weather. It is quite warm, but that's the way I like it, much better than being cold. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm actually walking now, but there are actually still pugnacious ants all around us. So between the snakes and the ants, we haven't actually walked that far. We're going to sneak back past and where we started at the rubbing post. So our original plan was to duck down into the riverbed. I heard from the tracking team that there was reports of leopard tracks heading into this area. So hopefully we'll be able to find some nice fresh tracks in the sand. And we did hear a squirrel alarming in the distance. So we're going to always approach really carefully as we go towards drainage lines. There's some thickets. There's some nice mud wallows here. There's that rubbing post. So we're losing our ears, concentrating, because there could be buffalo bulls in this area. It is a favorite haunt. And a very interesting thing just happening here. And we do discuss it quite a bit. But this is a perfect example how different trees have learned how to deal with elephants. So you can see this has been pushed over by an elephant. And even though rotten here, it's still growing. And the branches have just basically changed the direction and they're growing straight up. And you'll find that a lot of these trees have co-evolved with elephant feeding on them. So they have evolved this mechanism to carry on growing even though they've been pushed down. They just change direction. And so, I mean, this branch, if we can get in here, from the way it was growing originally, you can see, have you got it there? You can see it's literally done a 90-degree turn. And this is one of my favorite acacias we get in this area. It's called a red thorn due to the young branches having this incredibly beautiful sort of rusty color. It's Acacia gerardi, those who are interested in the Latin names, but you can see wonderful rust color. Okay, let's go see what's in the drainage line. There's just something incredible about being on foot. I mean, your senses are heightened. Every little movement, every little sound, every little smell just becomes that much more magnified. So just ahead of us here, in this very drainage line, is the first leopard it was the place I tracked my first leopard ever on foot after arriving at SafariLIVE. And it was Ximhungwe who had killed a bushbuck. And he hoisted it into a tambuti tree. And I'm hoping this drainage line provides us a little bit more leopard luck. So I did my best impression at a bit of, I don't know what you would call that. I wouldn't say I was artful enough to call it actual dancing, but ant avoidance techniques would probably be the best. Quickly, we've got some action on the other camera.
Oh, guys, we've just interrupted a very serious Franklin confrontation. I'm going to be quiet because the sound effects are the best part of this. missed him. That was a pretty fancy duck. Oh, into the branch. These guys are definitely not joking. They're not even slightly perturbed by our presence. Crest and Franklin having a very serious argument. And it seems to me like the one on the left is... Oh, they're all shouting now. Come on, guys, come back towards the open area. That was amazing to see. And actually, fights between male Franklin can get fairly savage. They've got a spur that you might be lucky enough to see on the back of their ankles. And they use that to tackle each other. That's why you were seeing them every time they met each other. It was with feet first, trying to keep those dangerous spurs away from the other Franklin, or away from themselves. That was amazing to see. Some serious argument happening there, but still stopping to pick at the ground whilst they were doing it. And I'm not sure if that's part of the display or if they get hungry halfway through. Try to roll forward to see. I think that might be over. I think that was it. And peace now reigns in the Franklin world. Oh, here we go. Roll forward. See if we can get them doing that again. Two down.
So, interesting afternoon. My goodness, some of the things that we've seen. How good was that Boomslang? That was incredible. That is the best encounter I've ever seen. And Jamie's picked up some really beautiful small things. The drive today has been, or the drive walk, everything has just been so small and delicate and very, very intimate. And I really like that. It's a good change. I just wanted to come to the tent and show you a few things. We just happen to have a snake skin here as well. This is a slough snake skin, just carrying on from Brent's incredible encounter. And this snake skin is from a Mozambican spitting cobra that lives in the roof of our camp, actually. And we found this one morning. So this would be inside out. It's peeled backwards off the snake's body, and it will actually have an eyelid, a fused eyelid scale as well, that if you sometimes find a snake skin, you'll see that eyelid is still intact, that eyelid scale is still intact. But pretty incredible things, great things to show kids as well. But you know what, I think one of the things that Brent always says about walks, and all the guys that do walks, and all of us really, small things matter too. You know, elephants and the lions and leopards are beautiful, fantastic things, but if it wasn't for some of the small things, that whole habitat wouldn't exist. Come and have a look at this little guy. Now, he might not be as impressive as a boomslang or a leopard or a Franklin for that matter, but this, you may have seen one of these before. It looks a little bit dark right there now. Now I'm going to put some light on him, and he may move away from this light because he is a woodlouse. Now, a woodlouse is an invertebrate related to, believe it or not, related to crabs and lobsters. Okay, so millions of years ago they came out of the ocean and had a bit of a crack on going on land, and they've survived. But underneath, I will just turn him over in a second. It's not going to hurt him at all, I promise you. I would never do anything like that. You can just start to see him move now because of this light. They live in a very, very dark environment under logs. I'm going to have to wrangle him a little bit here. So I do have a certificate for woodlouse wrangling, so I am legally allowed to do this. And this little woodlouse, a very incredible creature. They have 7 pairs of legs, 14 legs, and underneath they've got these really, really primitive gill-like structures that allow them to breathe, hence why they have to live in a very, very moist environment. Just come back to this microscope and have a little look now. See if we can just gently, he's a bit, I don't know if I'll be able to do it because he does move quite quickly, and now that he knows I'm wanting him to turn him over. I've just got a little paintbrush, so it's not a big deal, but you can just see those little legs there. And then there's also these gill-like structures. You see those dark gill-like structures there? So I'll tip him back over, but there's the 7 pairs of legs. I'll tip him back over now and let him be. There you go, mate. And that's an incredible little creature that lives off decomposing wood, fungi, and all other. He's called a detritivore, which is another great word. Herbivore, carnivore, detritivore. So he eats detritus, decaying plant matter. Just one more little creature that I've got here to show you, and another detritivore. But you've probably seen these before. But these are really small, juvenile ones, and these are miniature or baby versions of giant African millipedes. Now they're a little bit, you can see those legs there moving around, 2 pairs of legs to every body segment, and you can see the beautiful antennae out the front there, lovely dark exoskeleton, beautiful antennae feeling out there. Again, all these creatures that are living in a very, very dark environment don't have very, very good vision or any vision. They have light receptors, and then they will use those antennae to find their way around. There's a couple of different size ones in there. I'll just take this one off because I have got Big Daddy, and this is Big Daddy. Now, this is a small one actually, but he's curled up in his defensive position at the moment, so I'm just going to have to get him under there and then just have to adjust this up a little bit, and you'll see that beautiful detail of those legs. Isn't that fantastic? Really, really beautiful. Beautiful detail that the legs all the way around there and then curled, and you just see a little tiny bit of movement just in there where I touch with my paintbrush. So that little paintbrush is a great tool. Would never hurt the creature, of course. As important, as I said before, really as important as all the other animals and creatures that we have, because every single creature on this planet makes up the planet. Okay, we're going to cross back over to the bushwalk, sorry, I was going to say to Jamie, but to the bushwalk with Brent. I'm sure Brent has got something else for us.
You're right. So, camouflage is one of the most important things out in the bush. I'm wondering if anyone can spot the living creature in Gendre's frame at the moment. So, as we go closer, we'll spot a little grasshopper that has the same coloration as the sand at the bottom of the riverbed. Isn't that amazing? So you can see it almost, the little color spots on it, break it up so it looks like little bits of quartz that we find in these riverbeds. And you can just see a little bit of movement. The leg moved slightly there. And obviously not bad to eat and not venomous. Oh, not, sorry, poisonous. Because of that coloration. So obviously if he's spotted, it'd make a good dinner for hornbill, starling, mongoose. So I'm just going to move there, and you can see because he has that coloration like that, I'm just going to jump for you, and you can see how far he can jump. Oh, there you go. You see, he doesn't rely on huge hops like certain species. If you have a look at Andre, there he is. So he doesn't rely on big hops. He relies on small hops and keeping dead still again for his camouflage. And so, you've lost him? He's there. And look, it's just perfect how, with that the small gravel around, how he looks almost exactly the same as it. So animals have lots of different ways of defending themselves, some with a tooth and claw, others with a bit of subtle camouflage. So, and that's the wonderful thing about everything out here. You see something new every single day. But you're going to stay with us now. We're going to keep working this drainage system, really hoping we'll find some leopard tracks. But, until then, as I said that, I thought I spotted a leopard track. Unfortunately, it wasn't. There's a big hyena track that pops through here. You can see it's slid down. It's quite old. Just with the rain, slid down, so it was just after the rain. Got lots, you can just see the little claw marks from the hyena, but quite an old track. We're going to keep moving. Hopefully we'll find a fresh track. We also are slowly moving towards the Buffelshoek waterhole, and you never know what's around a waterhole after a nice warm day like this. So we're going to zigzag through this drainage system, just looking for tracks. Just heard something. Sounded like a buffalo foot stamp. I'm just gonna sneak this little path. There are buffalo in the area. I'd prefer to know exactly where they are. Okay. I'm gonna peer over the ledge. Can't see anything yet, but it sounded like it was down towards where the mud wallows are. So there is a nice open spot. If we carry on, if we look back down, we might be able to see if they're there. It could still be quite far away and still moving down towards this area. In a lot of situations on foot, your ears become your most important asset. They give you a direction for your eyes to look in. It might be a little bit further away, but we're going to keep walking and keep checking this drainage system. Always good to check these hollow tree holes. Not much in here. You can see this wood is really hard and solid. You can even hear it. The heartwood's been burnt, and some borer beetles have got into it, but very few. And they haven't managed to eat through most of it. You can hear it's not very hollow yet. And that's because this is a leadwood. One of the harder wood species we get out here. And dead leadwoods, like this one here, can often stay standing after they've died for 100 years. So one of the best places to see this is in an area that's been flooded and they've died from drowning, basically. And you get these sort of forests of dead trees, and it's absolutely spectacular. This one, I think, too old for me to figure out what got it. But anyway, let's keep going. Genre just wants to have a look up it quickly. You can see, oh, hello. Let's come have a look here quickly. There is a tiny little nest in here. I can't even see what made it. It looks like a little bird, a very small bird. So sunbird or whatnot. I'm going to try see if I can see through another hole. I'm a bit short to get through the top there. Let's see if I can collect a log to stand on quickly. Of course, being a dead leadwood, you choose the closest log, which happens to be a leadwood, which is incredibly heavy. Oh, that's very heavy. There we go. Just a little bit of extra height. Try to see if there are any eggs. I actually even think this might not be birds. I think it could be squirrels that have been filling this in. And I'm telling that, unfortunately, I'm not going to put my finger in there. It's a great place for scorpions and snakes. But I can see squirrel dung from up here. But fascinating. Everywhere, everything dead or alive has a use out here in the African bush. This is Djuma, this drainage line that runs quite a long way from there now. But I've had many amazing experiences along this area. And we added another, definitely one of my top 10 experiences since I've been here, was that Boomslang. Still waiting for the day walking along here that I can sort of just pop my head over and spot a leopard beneath me. And we're getting to that time of the day that my dad likes to call magic hour. And the sun's sinking a little bit lower. You know, this beautiful light. And wherever I am in the world, it could be in the most amazing place. When it sort of gets this late afternoon soft light, I always have that little bit of pang. A little pang wishing I was still in the bush somewhere. Fortunately, most of the time I am. Look at that. So if we look, it looks completely dead. Absolutely, completely expired. This is a zebra wood. And there's still life coming out of the same root system. A little zebra wood, or Dalbergia, quite favored by the elephants, even though they've got these incredibly sharp spines. And it'd be amazing if we could actually figure out how the main stem died. But I do love the shapes and different textures that this dead wood provides. Now, when I ran that little tented walking safari camp in southern Tanzania, we didn't have any gas, we didn't have any electricity. We had some solar panels for light. All our cooking was done on a fire, and we actually even built a concrete stove with holes to put fire in. And that zebra wood, which is called mpingo in Swahili, was the chef's favorite. If the guys who on firewood collection brought back other wood, he would complain bitterly to me often. He said that was the best wood. It burnt the most evenly for his cooking. So we're going to duck back down into the drainage system. Some incredible trees in this area. The bush is actually sort of gone almost still at the moment. There's the odd bird. There's a babbler nearby. The wind's died down. You can hear one or two insects. And all we're hoping for is pandemonium to break out. Barking in nyala or kudu, snorting impala, to put us in the right direction of a leopard. Or a lion. I've got a very funny leaf here. I'm going to try hold it into the light. You might see there's an incredible amount of tiny little hairs. And that's what gives this leaf its rough feel. It's called a sandpaper raisin. And it's incredible. I'm going to just use it on my stick quickly. Just find a nice little spot where we can see. These leaves are a bit fresh, but you can actually get a nice little polish on with the leaf. And so I wonder if anyone ever used it in the past as sandpaper out in the
Well, folks, this is an interesting situation here. We've got an aerial view of nyala bulls, a beautiful antelope, and they're actually rutting or fighting each other for dominancy here, and there's this incredible display that occurs. Now, normally when you're on the ground you get an interesting vision of it, but you can see from here there's a very, very erect white stripe on the animal towards the top of the screen, and that's a dorsal sort of crest or fringe of hair that gets erect to make the animal look bigger and just to look more impressive to its opponent. And you can see the one that's still holding that dorsal crest up seems to be the one. It's the one right in the middle of the screen there, and he seems to be the most dominant at the moment. The other one's walked off. There's two off to the right as well, the screen, about towards 3 o'clock on our screen. Very interesting behaviour. Now, it's when they are looking to start to take over or set up a territory, and they'll do a sort of a broadside orientation of each other. The actual practice of that hair standing up like that is called philo-erection, and they'll do it just to make themselves look more impressive. It's really cool to see from the air, isn't it? Incredible. So the bull that's in the middle at the moment seems to be the successful one out of our two that have had a small battle, but here comes another one running into shot. Andrew's following that one, gone off on a bit of a run around. Fantastic to see from the air. It's just stuff that we don't get to see, this sort of perspective. And just one last thing about the nyala, they are pretty much the most sexually dimorphic, which is the most sexually dimorphic antelope in Africa, which means they are very, very different looking in size and shape from their female of the same species. Now I can see Andrew's starting to go up into the sky, and he'll be going somewhere else, but fantastic to see that aerial view of nyala. Nyala bulls, nyala are one of my favourite antelopes as well, very, very pretty antelope, and we see lots of them around the reserve here. We're going to cross back over to Jamie and see what she's up to.
Luckily, Wium and myself did manage to find our way back from Arathusa. Now all that's left is to find our way to the Ximhungwe pride.
No, because it is the philo-erection. It's actually really impressive from the side.
A little bit ahead of us off to the right, and apparently the lions disappeared off into this block here between Gallagher and Aubrey's. Let's see if they are still around. This is a perfect time of day to go searching for them. I might have to, at some point, possibly rely on Wium for directions, but I think I know where to go from here. Let's double check. There's the hyena den road. Let's see if we can figure out where the vehicles have been going off-road. Okie dokie. Let's try and find a nice path in. It's very dense. Oh, there's a nyala going in as well. Where did these... Hello, nyala. Be careful. There's some very hungry lions in there. Okay, let's see. Hyena den's just off to our right. I think this is probably going to be our easiest way in. I just want to try and find the off-road tracks. They go straight in there, Wium. Okay. It's going to be easier for us to find them if we can follow the vehicle tracks going into this block from this morning. Or at least have a good place to start. Well, everybody, hold on to your hats and watch your heads. Here we go. It'll be interesting to see what they've been up to during their day. Everybody duck. There we go. Well done, Wium. Oh, there's some kudu in there as well. Try and sneak around them. Definitely a serious potential here for a hunting opportunity for the Ximhungwes. And it's so interesting about them is they are such young sub-adults. That they would have been abandoned pretty much at the point where learning to hunt was still very much a part of their lives. They hadn't fully mastered the entire art of it. They're an amazing survival story. Let's see if we can sneak through here. Oh, well done, Bryan. Quite a seriously thick block, but I think we've found our way into a more open patch. Hello, little kudu. Don't mind us. While we bundu bash through to get to the Ximhungwes, there's a beautiful, peaceful sunset scene from the air. So let's have a look at that.
Isn't that incredible? We've got our eyes in the sky, looking through to that magnificent mountain range, the Drakensberg, and the setting African sun. And one of the longest mountain ranges in Africa. From up on the ground to down on the from up in the air, to down on the earth. We've come back through. As the sun's setting, we've got to start moving slowly back towards our vehicle. We don't want to be caught at night on foot. But we've got this awesome mud wallow here, and oh, that was close. I think I'm going to hop this way. And we've got some dung that's here on the edge of this mud wallow. Oh, there we go. Break it up. You can see it's a grass eater. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to let me know what type of grass this is. Oh, sorry, what type of grass eater this is. And think about it. It's probably not what you would expect at a tiny little waterhole like this. Remember to send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. Who dung it? Very, very dark. So from the starches in the grass. And the clue is, the water. So we're going to keep with us. I'm going to come back to the other side of the water and see what else we can find as we move along through the African bush at sunset, my favorite time of the day. See what else we can find. The plethora of insects that are out and about at the moment, and some of my favorite little plants are starting to flower. And I'm just going to keep, there's a very, very cool one. And because Jean-Andre decided I should stand in the pugnacious ants for losing sight of the snake, I've decided Ximhungwe should eat some of this. Now, this is wild aniseed. I'm not hand feeding you, Ximhungwe. Put your hand off. Okay, he wants to be. Yes, he wants to be hand fed. Lean back. There we go. Now I'm feeding my cameraman. He is eating it. The reason the funny faces he's pulling, and the funny faces I'm pulling, although it tastes delicious if you like licorice. Neither of us particularly like licorice. So you can actually cook with this. I know a chef who I used to work with in the bush, he used it extensively on lamb and would actually dry out these little aniseeds and really heavily coat it with black pepper and salt over the edge of a pork roast. And I must say, I do prefer that form than the raw form. But I mean, the smell is so distinct. It's so strong. Really, really incredible. Wild aniseed. And I know some of our directors are very fond of all the smelly things we find in the bush. So I'm going to take some back for her. And we're going to keep checking very slowly and very carefully through this area, because as we've just seen, there are those mud wallows, and they are big fans of elephants, and buffalo are big fans of them. So we don't want to stumble upon a large buffalo bull without spotting him first. So we're walking very carefully and slowly due west towards the setting sun. So, of course, I love the majority of the animals out here. And Miss Jin, who's in the Lone Star State, Texas, is wondering which is my favorite. And that is a question I can answer without even thinking. It's the African wild dog, or painted wolf. That is by far my most favorite animal in the world. It's just that they're just so exciting to follow. Miss Jin would also like to know which animal I like the least. I'm not sure. I like most of them. I think, actually, I know which animal I like the least. There is an incredibly annoying insect that lives in the rainforests of Central Africa. In French, it was called a farou. In English, well, I didn't know what its English name was. It's a mite, a biting midge, sorry. We used to call them invisibles. They were so small you couldn't see them, and they literally bit you everywhere, and they'd get in your clothes. That's probably my least favorite animal, Miss Jin. But as you can see, the sun's setting behind us. We need to start changing gears to a little bit quicker to get back to the vehicle before it's too dark. But thanks very much for joining us on the Sunset Walking Safari. It's been possibly one of the greatest walking safaris of my life, with that incredible Boomslang. But now we're going to go back to Hayden for some more microscope fun.
What an incredible sunset. Always we have incredible sunset here. We're spoilt. That was an amazing walk from Brent today. I'm just blown away with what he saw. He's got a real eye. He can see the finest detail. It's absolutely fantastic. I forgot to do something with you. I'm struggling a little bit to identify this woodlouse that I had here before. If you want to just have a quick look at him, I'll just cross to him on the microscope. I'm just putting that light on for a second. Now, the way that you can identify him, if you can help me, see those two little brown sort of characteristic scales at the end there? He's going to move because of this light. That's a real characteristic of this species, and I'm just struggling to find out which one he is. Now, if you would like to help me, that would be really great. If you would like to help me by trying to identify him, and the first person that tweets in at #SafariLIVE will get a shout out, and I'd love to do that for you, and it'd be great for me as well, because you can help me identify this. The interesting news that I forgot to tell you about wood lice is there's about 3,500 species on the planet. Let's just cross off to the drone for a second. Have a look what Andrew's found for you. Really, really great. Just as that sun's setting there, he's got two zebra just up on quarantine, looking beautiful. with that gorgeous colour in the sky. And we often find that zebra come up here in the afternoon. Many animals come up onto quarantine for the reason of safety at night. It's a nice open area. We'll get herds of buffalo resting here overnight. We'll get herds of impala, kudu. Kudu sort of go back into the vegetation a little bit, but the zebra, wildebeest, buffalo and impala have a tendency to congregate up here through the evening because it's a nice, safe, open area. That being said, there's been many a successful predator up here as well, though, so they do have to keep their wits about them. But for now, I think we'll cross back to Jamie and see what she's up to, and great stuff.
We're still searching for them. Copy that, sorry, Orcs, thank you. Just getting an update from Aubrey about the Birminghams around First Rock on Torchwood. And apparently, according to Wium, we've gone past where the lions were earlier. It doesn't look like they're still here. I don't see any sign of them. Interestingly, we had a really fleeting glimpse of a hyena just as we were moving through this area, and I think they've been feeling particularly defensive about their den. Now, for those of you who were watching this morning, you may have seen that the lions were pretty much on top of the hyena den this morning. They came to pay a visit. I'm just going to do a bit of a loop around, see if they haven't moved further into the bush, possibly in search of some better shade as the day got hot. It is a very, very dense block. Unbelievably dense. Just do one quick double check around this termite mound. And then we'll start looping back towards the road, because I can't go all the way through in this block, all the way through to the road, not without having a reason. Out here. Keep your eyes peeled, guys. See if you can spot them before I do. Remember, you're looking for black flicks of the tail and the black at the back of the ears. Now, Sarah, you've raised a point that honestly I thought about as well. And Sarah's one of our 17-year-old viewers from Ohio. She's a very regular follower of our show. Sarah, you wanted to know if the hyenas might move den sites now that the lions have been around. Honestly, Sarah, I'm not 100% sure. The one thing that I did notice was that the lions were urine spraying around the den, which lion urine does carry a very potent, very strong smell. And it's not something that animals really enjoy. You might find that the hyenas decide that they really don't want that scent, because it's a bit of a trouble magnet, really, because other male lions might come through and smell that and might attract their attention as well. So there's a possibility that they could move. Have you got him? The direction. Wium is directing me through the block to try and help me find out exactly where their last location was, because he very cleverly GPS'd it. It's a very bumpy, rather rocky ride. Sarah, I think there's a chance that they might move their den site. I can't be 100% sure. I just think that the scent of the lion urine might act as a serious deterrent. I haven't seen any heads sticking up, and I wonder whether they might have moved out of here. While I continue my search, James has some birds to show you, so let's head across to him.
Right, everyone, couple of communication issues, but here we are at Arathusa, and we're just watching the crepuscular rays of the sun as the guinea fowl shouts off to the right-hand side of your screen. So, wonderful sights as the summer clouds start to build, and in 3 days' time, we're supposed to be having some rain out here, which would be very exciting. And this is generally what happens. It normally takes about 2 days for these storms to really build up properly. The heat gets almost unbearable to about 40 degrees or 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it breaks with a big storm in the afternoon. And that storm in the afternoon is predicted for Friday. So with any luck, we'll have it then, and we'll have something for those of you in the States for us to be very grateful for. Now, what we did when we arrived here was we saw a hippopotamus coming out of the water, which is quite unusual at this time of the day. It's not quite dark enough, and he was marking territory. And the smell around here at the moment is, how would you describe it, Bryan? Fairly ripe. He's been pungent. Yes, he's been pungent. And what they do is they walk along, and we'll show you now where he did it. They defecate and flap their tails over what they're doing, and they go, sprays the dung all over the place, and that's how he marks his territory. So we'll head down over there and see if we can't find some evidence of where it happened. The hippo itself is headed off there into those bushes. We'll try and catch up with him a little bit later. But certainly we want to try and show you where he went to the loo. There we go. I don't think there's anything fresh there, but that's certainly where he's been many times before. You can see that kind of a sprayed dung all over the place there. Very interesting. And that will be a sort of territorial mark that he's made, and not the one that he's just made. We did see him make quite a fresh one around here somewhere. I think it was just up ahead. Okay, right? This one or the next? This one. Ah, yes. Look at that. Right, let me show you how he did that. Not very nice. So what he did was he came and he stood here and he flapped his tail like that. It's like a paddle. It's a sort of a wide paddle. Sprayed the dung all over the place. He also had he also urinated here, so it was a kind of a double whammy. So it's very wet, very stinky, very effective way to mark your territory if you happen to be in a hippo bull. And what they do is they're territorial in the water, and then their territories kind of radiate out from the water like that. And the further away from the water they get, the less territorial they'll be about it. So he's probably heading off sort of into the middle of his territory to graze for the night. And I don't know that he'll be back. I don't think he'll be back before dawn. And I think the reason they're probably coming out early is because that water's pretty unpleasant. There's a whole lot of water hyacinth in it. And as Jamie was showing you earlier, I mean, it's so thick that the water monitors are running all the way across the top of it, not sinking at all. And as Bryan said, some swamp things under there. That's exactly what it does look like. Right, we'll carry on. We'll see if we can't spot this hippo just in the bushes behind us. I don't need to plug myself in. I can't hear anything from the final control, so we're flying blind, as it were. We're also going to head a bit further east so that we do get some better comms with the final control. Stunning moon starting to come up now. There you can see it. It's almost full. I think probably a day off, Bryan. Probably a day off being full. Beautiful. Marvelous. Okay, we'll carry on. See if we can't. The hippo went off through there. I'm not going to try and sort of follow him like I might an elephant, and that's because they do get a bit nervous when we're following them. They probably will just run off. They're known as the most dangerous animals in all of Africa, which, I mean, I suppose they are if you happen to get between them and the water. But from cars, they are normally very nervous. If they're not in the water, they'll normally just run away. No, I don't think he's in there. The other thing we saw as we came into Arathusa we saw as we came into Arathusa was a whole lot of vulture activity around about their airstrip area. So we're going to head back in that general direction, see if we can't pick anything up. I did ask the Arathusa guys if they'd found anything there, and they hadn't by the time we asked them. So watch your heads, everyone. Right. It's always quite nice to look around here. This is a favourite haunt of shadow. There's the hippo. Straight up the power lines there. I'll just stop. We'll just have a quick look. I'm not going to follow him through there. It's a particularly unpicturesque part of the world. There, you can just see his shiny bottom disappearing off. This is still very light for him to be out. Normally only after dark. Righty, let's reverse. What an absolutely astonishing sighting you had with Brent and that Boomslang. I was just getting something in the final control. We were trying to fix the radios there when I saw it. And I mean, I was really gobsmacked. I think, as Brent said, his best snake sighting here. Certainly would have been my best if I'd been there too. Right, so our plan now is to head off back sort of towards the eastern side, and we'll have a look where those vultures were lurking around, just about sort of on the Arathusa airstrip entrance, around about their airstrip area. The edge of the heat of the day has come off. There's a lovely kind of smell of the evening starting to fill the air, which is very lovely. We'll just see what we can find. As they always say, you never know what you might find hanging about around the corner. And they're just spotted a dwarf mongoose, but I don't think he's going to be particularly confiding to us, so we'll just carry on. It'll be very interesting to see, I think, for those of you watching this morning, where those Ximhungwe pride lions go. The two females and the one young male. I don't know, they seem to be running scared, and as Brent and I were chatting about it earlier today, you know, they've had such a rough time. Apparently one of their lionesses was killed. In fact, two of the three of them were killed. They're the last remaining three of the Ximhungwe pride. That young male is really going to struggle to survive in the area on his own. Certainly if the Birmingham boys start to get hold of him, well, that'll be the end of that. But, now I don't know if Brent explained this to you. Found on Buffelshoek today were three of the skybed males. Now, I don't know if you remember us describing them to you, but the skybed males are a coalition of 9 male lions, and they seem to be coming south now, out of Manyeleti. The other Matimbas, remember the Matimba boys who used to be dominant here were 5, and then the 2 of them sort of set up shop around here. But the 3 of them who stayed north in Manyeleti have scuppered. They've gone off somewhere, and those 9 males have split into 4 and 5 at the moment, and 5 of them are coming down this way. 3 of them pitched up at Buffelshoek last night, and they're mating with some unknown female. Excuse me. So that is really quite astonishing. Oh, I think I'm hearing something from final control. Here we go. I can read her. Go ahead. No, I was over hopeful. Final control, do you copy? Oh well, we'll carry on driving. Right, let's go across to Jamie, see what she's got. This is a little bit out of the farcical, and we'll see you a bit later.
Well, we did it. It's taken some serious budu bashing and quite a few collisions with trees for both of us, but thanks to Wium's very fine directing skills, we have found the Ximhungwes. Brilliant. My first time seeing these lions in the flesh. Hello, little ones. 2 subadult females and 1 subadult male. All 3 of them with a very complicated, rather sad history from what I understand. Now, these 3 have been absolutely consummate survivors. For them to have survived as subadults on their own for as long as they have. Hello, little boy. Now, this little guy apparently escaped death only a couple of nights ago, which is why he's looking so thin and stressed out. He was outside one of the neighboring lodges. I haven't been able to confirm which one. And he was cornered by a whole load of hyenas. And the 2 lionesses couldn't get to him. He was separated from them. And most of the guides who were watching were convinced that he was going to die. He was going to be killed by the hyenas, but he managed to break free and escape. And that is why that little boy is looking a bit thin and a bit the worse for wear. But definitely a trio of 3 young heroes. The Ximhungwe pride, from what I understand, I'm going to try and get us a little bit closer, but I don't want to make them uncomfortable. So we'll do it nice and slowly. Unfortunately, we are on the noisiest log in the world. Here we go, let's sneak forward. At just the right time. They are getting up, and there's one scent marking there. And Gail, you were watching in Rhode Island, you were wondering if they would use scent marking to locate the rest of their pride. Gail, it's a possibility. Oh, little ones. Very tightly bonded family group. Oh, shame. He is looking... Oh.
With a twist.
You definitely, Wium and I have decided, actually it was Wium's idea, we're going to call this little male Oliver Twist. I don't think he approves of our name, Wium. I think he disapproves. Okay, well, either way, I think he should be called Oliver. Sorry, boy, did that not go down so well? Or have you got a runny tummy? They are orphans by the looks of things. There was an adult female with them a couple of months ago, but she hasn't been seen in a really, really long time. Oh, shame. Look at all of those scars. That would be from the hyena encounter. Oh, well done, little boy. You've done very well to have survived as you have. And for the most part, I think that these 3 have been without their adult mother. They've been getting by pretty much on scavenging, maybe getting lucky and catching things like kudu or nyala. There's some updates coming through that the last 3 adults of the Ximhungwe pride were killed by hyena, as well as another being killed by the Ottawa pride of lions. Now, the Ximhungwe pride apparently used to be also known as the Castleton pride, and it was a very, very large pride. And it slowly suffered some setbacks, incredible setbacks. That being said, I did see a photograph posted of one of the adult Ximhungwes with these 3. So there were 4 of them all together. That was a couple of months ago. So I don't know where that surviving lioness, maybe they were out on their own. Oh dear, into thick block. Where are you going, guys? You're going to try and stay with them for as long as possible. We're about to hit a drainage line. It's going to be very, very tricky to stay with them. I'm so glad that we got here when we did. Managed to get at least some visual of them. You can see up ahead of me how thick the bush is. I'll try and find a way around to them. Otherwise we might have to do a big loop. Looks like it's the only place we're going to be able to cross. Everybody hold on to your heads. Everyone, I'm just concentrating on not wrecking the car or driving over any trees I shouldn't, and also catching up with those lions. And we're going to do an Austin Powers style 20-point turn to get there. Interesting question from one of our younger viewers. You ready, Wium? Oh, there's a tree. Now Matthew, who is 9 years old, Matthew, you've watched a show where it said that lions will kill hyenas. I think I might have to admit defeat here. Just to give you a rough idea as to what we are facing. I'm desperately trying to look for a way around. The lions just came in through here where we are, opposite where we are now. Matthew, I promise you I will get back to your question. I just want to spend a little bit of time trying to get through here to try and find these lions for you all to look at. And while I do, let's head across to James. I'll be back with you very shortly.
Right, everybody, hello. You will hear the odd sort of speaking from Final Control on the radio. We're still having a couple of troubles, so they are on open communications. Jamie has refound the Ximhungwes, as you know. They've now gone to some thick bush, but nervous lions, I'm sure. So just to reiterate, we had some Birmingham boys on Torchwood in the far east today. A couple of skybed males, or a few of them, on the northern side of Biffle's Hook today. The Matimbas still seem to be round about Londolozi. I'm not sure where the Salati males are. They're the ones who are going to cop it next from those skybed males if they hang around in northern Biffle's Hook and Manyeleti. So really interesting times. Not a lot of lady lions to go around, all these males at the moment. And I think it looks to me like those Birmingham boys are starting to fracture. One of them seems to be quite badly injured. He's sitting on Torchwood at the moment. I don't know what's wrong with him exactly or what fate has befallen him, but he certainly doesn't seem to be in a very good way. According to reports, I haven't seen him yet. And you know, they haven't all five been seen together for a little while yet. I may be speaking out of turn and I may be speaking too soon, but I think it does sound a little bit like they're starting to fracture. Bring in the extra of another 5 or 9 even skybed males from the north, and who knows what's going to happen. So we don't have a huge amount of time left to drive. With any luck, we'll find something on faithful Djuma. We've left Arathusa. There was a bit of vulture activity, but the light faded, and so we weren't able to go and follow up on foot. So we're going to head back into Djuma and see what there is there. I'll take the spotlight out shortly. It's amazing how every day it just gets dark slightly later. probably about 25 to 30 seconds only. But you can start to feel it. We can still see the pink on the horizon when we shut down at 7 o'clock. A week or 2 weeks ago, that certainly wasn't the case. It was pitch black when we shut down. So, oh, there we go, little steenbok running across the road. I did see my first baby impala today, which was excellent. It ran into some thick bush before we could show it to you, I'm afraid. But at least Bryan and I saw one. Our first of the season. Was that your first of the season? Oh, your second. Well, look at you. Aren't you so fancy and smart? Anyway, lucky old Bryan. He's seen two. I've seen one. Try and find a few more before it gets completely dark. But they're definitely starting to drop now. Excuse me. All the rain's brought out the frogs, Bryan. Frog in my throat. Right, we're going to go across to Hayden. He's in the tent, of course, on quarantine clearings. Let's see what he's got to show you, and I'll see you just now.
Well, we have had some answers to our woodlouse questionnaire, and the winner is Jeff from Texas. And Jeff, thank you very, very much. The correct genus, I'm still yet to find the species. If you want to just come and have a little look at this little guy here, as I said, and Brent always says the small thing. And this little guy is a woodlouse that is in the Armadillium genus, and he's a pretty cool creature. He's a very, very ancient creature, and great little one. So, Jeff, thank you so much from Texas. Hope you're doing well. Wonderful state you live in too. Well, there's something else right in front of me here, isn't there? One of my favourite creatures on the planet, and I've worked with giraffe for many years. I hand-reared a giraffe in a zoo that I worked at. I spent a lot of time with that animal. I learnt loads about them, but it's not very often you get your hands on a skull. And I know James picked this up the other day and had a look at it, and there's always interesting things to talk about. I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the actual time that I hand-reared my giraffe, and I really did feel it in the flesh, literally. Those horns, they're not actually horns, they're called ossicones. And they are big calcium, or big parts of the bone there, that actually end up standing up between 2 and 3 weeks of age, and they don't fuse to their skull or connect to their skull till they're between 4 and 7 years of age. So between 2 and 3 weeks of age they stand up, but when I felt the giraffe's sort of ossicone the first time, skin-covered ossicones they are as well, like their distant relative or their cousin, the okapi in Central Africa, you could hold on to that ossicone and it actually move on the skull, and you could feel it. You could actually hold it there and move it around on the skull, even though it was covered in hair and skin, and that little giraffe's horn was like that, and he used to really enjoy that. It was like scratching his head sometimes. I hand-reared that giraffe for 1 year, and I think I mentioned the other day on camera, but he was at his prime. He was drinking 25 litres, which is about, 25 times 600 mils. I'll have to do the math for you later and get that in pints for you. But an incredible amount of milk every day, and he grew up to be a fine animal. But incredible thing. Now, if you just get a close look on this, please, Tebs, there's a line here, very, very faint line. You can just see where I'm using my tool to draw around here, and you can see there's a line there. That's where the fusion mark is, where that calcification occurred, and just along here as well. Okay, and that's eventually where the giraffe's ossicones fuse to the skull. Now, in the females, they're not used as much as they are in the males. They're used for fighting. They'll drop their head and neck in a pendulum type of a fashion, hit their heads and necks together. Quite hard to watch sometimes, and that will do that for dominancy over rights to mate with the herd, or individuals, sorry. Now, the other thing is there's other calcium buildups. There's one that happens sort of in the mizzen, or the middle of the forehead there as well. And there's two behind here. I'll just see if I can slide this around a little bit more. Another calcium buildup right on the last vertebrae just there, right there. Those ones protect the back and the head of the neck when that pendulum necking motion happens when they hit their heads and necks together. So pretty cool creatures, and always great to see the really fine detail of an animal when you get your hands on a skull. Okay, we're going to cross back to Jamie and see what she's up to. Sorry, James we're going to cross back to. James and Jamie, it gets a bit confusing for an old bloke like me in the afternoon. We're crossing to James and see what he can find.
Now you are live.
Hello everybody, we're back again, and I'm sure you heard the dulcet tones of Tara Dales at the end of that, telling us that we're alive. Wonderful, that tent. I had such fun.
Thank you so much,
the
mate.
last few days. It was just so special to be able to, first of all, it's a learning experience because you need to find things that are interesting and to find out about them. And so we found a couple of beetles and we could identify them. But then, of course, once you said this is a tortoise beetle, what else do you say about it once you've looked at it under the microphone, at least microscope? And so it was a tremendous learning experience. Steph and I would find things, and Louise would find something, and then we'd quickly go and look things up. We'd find out bits and pieces about them, and discover all sorts of new things about the wilderness in which we live. And it's not an enormous property in which we live, but despite that, there is so much of it that is still totally undiscovered and unexplored, especially in terms of the little things that occur here, around summertime especially. Summer is a particularly good time for those little things. Beetles and bugs, dragonflies and flies. We had a bloodworm, which is an interesting thing. I've never seen a bloodworm before. There's a little impala. We're not going to shine the light on it. It's either a little impala. No. Bryan, what is going on there? Is that just an adult impala having his evening constitutionals? There's not a birth going on, is it? Hang on 1 second, everybody. What can you see, Bryan? Oh, something's going on.
It's a male.
It's a male. So you don't think it's giving birth then?
Probably not.
Do you think it's unlikely?
Highly unlikely.
I suppose it probably is. It's a male. A constipated male, but a male nevertheless. Males don't give birth, so we're going to carry on from that. I'm sure it's been explained to you, but we're into the lambing season, of course, and it's just really exciting to see the young ones, and I've never seen one being born before. So every time I see an impala, I stop and look at it, and especially if it's assuming a slightly odd pose, like that one's still... Are you sure that was a male, Bryan? Yeah. Right. He's definitely very constipated. Hopefully he'll be okay. He needs to go and eat some tambuti leaves, and that will help loosen up his constitution a bit. Oh, spotlight. We need our spotlight. There we go. Bryan is also operating a spotlight, of course. Double the light power. Seem to be bearing any great results regarding animals though at this stage. Well, have you spotted an animal yet with that spotlight? Right, we are coming onto a road called Weaver's Nest, which will eventually become Philemon's Dip, and that'll head up towards Quarantine, but we're going to turn off it onto a road called Ximhungwe Alley. Now, Ximhungwe is the Zulu and Shangaan word for leopard. I've seen one leopard on Ximhungwe Alley. You might be lucky today. It's so nice that the heat of the day has kind of dropped off. It wasn't an enormously hot day, but it was certainly pretty steamy. And it's steamier as the summer goes on and the amount of water in the topsoil increases. So as it evaporates, so it makes the air very close and very steamy. You can hear the cicadas now. Very nice. Lots of insects around, as I said. Some rain locusts calling now, the cicadas. We'll just stop here and have a listen. Rain locust, of course, has shut up. Have a little listen. I'll tell you what I can hear. So you can hear that buzz of the cicadas. A little membrane underneath the abdomen that is vibrating at an astonishing 60,000 times per minute. Just try and compute that, 60,000 times per minute. 60 seconds in a minute, that's almost 1,000 times a second. It sounds incredibly fast for me, and I certainly did hear that today. In fact, thinking about it, it does sound incredibly fast. I think I'm going to have to check it up. Right, as you heard now, we're going to link across to Jamie, see what she's got. I'll carry on down Ximhungwe Alley, and with any luck, have an Ximhungwe at the end of it. See you now.
And I promise you, it took me that long to find my way out of that block. If we escape without a flat tire, it will be an absolute miracle. Well done, Jigga. Good job. Now I'm looping around to try and get to Buffelshoek cut line. See if we can catch the Ximhungwe on that side. I think they're heading north. They look like they're heading straight north back towards Buffelshoek. I wonder if they don't think that might be a safer place for them. Now, I was in the middle of answering Michael's question about he's heard that lions will kill hyenas but not eat them, and he was wondering why. And the reason, Michael, is because they kill the hyenas more for competition, so to reduce competition, than they do for any other reason. So they're not killing them for food, they're killing them so that they have less hyenas to compete with in terms of getting food, and less hyenas that might one day steal food from them or their cubs. So it's a way of trying to increase their success rate by killing hyenas. Sometimes they nibble on them a little bit, but generally predators don't often feed on other predators. It's only really hyena that generally demonstrate that. So only really hyena that will eat other hyena, or lions or leopards. I'm busy looking for the eye shine of those three young Ximhungwes. I would love to know where they go from day to day and how they've stayed out of trouble the way that they have. It's absolutely phenomenal. For our lions, and Adrian, you were wondering if there is more than one type of lion in Africa, and the answer is no. They all fall into the same species for the most part, at least sub-Saharan Africa. That being said, I think I'm going to take the cut line. That being said, there are sort of differences in different areas. So some of the lions, for example, the ones around the Kalahari, they have very deep, dark manes with high levels of testosterone. Some of the Eastern African lions are a little bit lighter in coloring, but they're still the same species. They don't form into a separate subspecies or anything like that. This is roughly where the Ximhungwes should emerge. I'm going to be keeping my eyes out here. One different type of lion, if you want to call it type, that we get out here is a white lion. Now that's not a different species at all. It is part of the same species. It's just a color, it's a genetic color variation. It's quite an unusual one. It's very, very rare. It's like albinism, but not quite. It is more, they have a little bit more pigment, so they don't lack pigment completely. They don't have red eyes. They have blue eyes and slightly darker manes and tail tips. It's a type of color variation known as leucism. And it's a very, very rare thing to see. Now, we are currently operating in an area where potentially we could see them. They're more common around the Timbavati region. But the Ximhungwe region is open to us. I'm actually going to take that road, I think, and do a loop around. So the lions could one day walk from Ximhungwe, especially young males dispersing away from their pride homelands, or their home range. They might move across towards areas like this, and if they find a female who also carries that recessive gene, then they could produce white lion offspring. I know that in Singita Lumbombo, which is in the far, far eastern side of Kruger, right on the Mozambican border, they all of a sudden, white lion cubs have just emerged into a pride that doesn't have any white lion individuals. Quite phenomenal. But since it is a naturally occurring gene, I guess it must pop out every now and again. It's just a matter of numbers. Now, the reason we think, or we suspect, that the Ximhungwes have come through is actually the answer to Susan's question. Now, Susan, you were saying, does rain wash away scent markings? And the answer is yes, it definitely makes them seem fainter and older. And what you'll see, both male lions and then leopards as well, after a big rainstorm, what you'll very often see them doing is going out and spraying urine and remarking their territories, remarking their areas. And it could be that because of the big rains that we've had over the last, I think the biggest one might have been, actually I honestly can't remember what day it was. I'm not entirely sure what today is. I think it might have been Sunday morning, Sunday or Saturday morning. And we haven't seen any of the other big male coalitions like the Birminghams come through since. So they haven't come and marked their territory again. But yes, in answer to that question, it does start to wash it away. Well, guys, at least we did manage to get that very brief visual of a very special lion pride, and one that I will always be keeping an eye out for in the future. I'm going to continue my search, but I am actually going to say goodbye to you all. And a big thank you to Wium as well for helping me navigate through that block, as well as all of his fantastic camera work. You're going to spend your last few moments in the tent with Hayden, so I will say goodbye for now and have a wonderful day.
Well, what a fantastic day, folks. A walk that was out of this world. I've never seen a reptile sighting like that ever before, and I think Ximhungwe and Brent pulled that off amazingly. The camera work and just how Brent was taking us through that was really spectacular. I enjoyed watching that immensely, and I have to agree with Brent. He says that's the best sighting he's ever seen in his 30 years in the African bush. I've never seen anything like that with a boomslang that was that relaxed and just let us be there with it. That's the beauty of SafariLIVE. It is happening live. Nothing like that is scripted. It's the incredible thing about having these fantastic people out on drives, on walks, drones in the sky, and all this fantastic little stuff in the tent as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I really look forward to coming back and talking to you again tomorrow from the tent. We're going to find some other fantastic small things, remembering the small things always matter as well. And if you can get your kids outdoors to have a bit of a look around, get them connected to nature through SafariLIVE, our job's done. See you tomorrow.
Link finished. 3, 2, 1. Stay for your live.
Hello, everybody. We've come to Buffelshoek, not Buffelshoek Dam, to Djuma Dam to look at the moonrise here. I'm lying in this repose, of course, because it's been a bit of a tough day radio-wise, and so Bryan and I are feeling a bit frazzled by life. Very relaxing to be here with the moon. We'll have a quick look at the moon behind me, and while we do that, we're going to just spend 20 seconds listening to the incredible sounds. I know I've done this already once with you, but let's just have one more listen. The cuckoo is what I want you to hear, and the kingfisher. You can just hear the red-chested cuckoo or the pitmay frobird going. And he's calling in the drainage line to the south of this dam, his voice echoing down through the leaves of the new trees. And totally on cue, of course, the woodland kingfisher has ceased his calling. He was yelling as we came up here to stop. Crickets, cicadas, rain locusts, and the odd owl. There's a Scops owl going bloop, bloop. There's also way in the distance an African cuckoo going bloop, bloop, bloop. Right. That's it for this evening, everybody. It has been a little bit of a trial. We do thank you so much for your patience with it. I know it can be a little frustrating, especially to our faithful viewers who've... Isn't that lovely? It's a water thickney, some Franklins. And we will be going into more rehearsals tomorrow, so we're probably dealing with our technical difficulties as we go along, so please bear with us. We do love having you on board. Especially tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock we'll start off. We'll have an hour of normal broadcast and then 2 more hours of our rehearsals, which unfortunately will be closed to the public. But we need to do that in order to up our game, fix out the glitches, so that we can do our TV broadcasts come Friday and magnificent Big Cat Week. We're so excited for it. And we're so excited that you, our faithful viewers, can join us. So please feel free to send through your questions tomorrow morning and your comments, and let us know what you think of the whole process, and let us know what you want to see during Big Cat Week. So a big thank you to Bryan. Thank you, Bryan, for your patience and stoicism today. Thank you to the technical team, who will no doubt be flat on their backs fairly soon. Hayden in the tent, that must have been great fun, I'm sure. Louise and Steph running around fetching bits and pieces. Tara and Nikki and Kirsty and who else was in there? Jerry, working frantically in the final control. And of course, Jamie, Brent, Scott, Wium, I think I've left out Gendre, and Andrew on the drone. That's the whole team. And from us at WildEarth, we will see you tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Until then, stay safe and happy wherever you are in the world. We will see you. Bye-bye.
I called the wrong com. Very nice photo.